Hey everyone, it's Laura here from makingcardstosun.com, and it's time for another Saturday STEM Day carding video. Before we get to the cards, I wanted to tell you a little something. So a little while ago I got a comment from one of my YouTube subscribers, and she asked me how people have to pronounce my last name. So anytime I do like a video, or I am just doing something for my blog, or I'm talking in English, I usually pronounce my last name as Sturks because it's just easier to pronounce it that way in English. But in Dutch, I actually pronounce it as Sterks. And then my first name is also pronounced differently in Dutch. So if I say my name in Dutch, it is Laura Sterks, but if I say it in English, it's Laura Sturks. Then there's just one more thing before we get to the cards. I still need a reply from 3 of the winners of my 7K video hop. So I still need a reply from Nancy Richards, Lemon Monkey 04, and Miss Davis. I sent you a couple of messages already on YouTube, so if you could please get back to me, that would be really awesome. And well, if I don't hear back by Monday, I will probably have to draw another winner, so I would feel really bad if you would miss out on your prize. So be sure to check out your YouTube inbox and get back to me as soon as possible. So let's get to the card then. In today's video, I'm going to be doing a lot of stamping, and I'm also going to be doing some foiling. So I'm starting out with a piece of 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 piece of a white Neenah cardstock, and I'm going to start out by stamping the bird from the Jungle Fever stamp set by Create a Smile Stamps onto this paper using some Memento Tuxedo black ink. So I mounted that stamp onto the paper, and then I picked it up with my MISTI, and then I can just easily stamp that onto the paper. I'm also going to use the Fresh Cut Peonies stamp set by The Ton. I used this in one of my previous videos, and I'm going to use it again today. So I'm starting out by stamping the solid piece of that flower first using soft Cantaloupe ink. And then I'm going to position the second layer of the flower, and I am using the layering guide for that. So you can easily check out how you need to mount your stamp because you have the layering guides, and you have to look at the pink little marks on the guide so you can see how you need to position your stamp. I'm going to stamp the second layer using Fresh Peach ink by Hero Arts. So I'm going to ink up my stamp, and then I can easily stamp that using the MISTI. And in case I didn't get that right at first, you can just ink it up again, and then you can easily stamp it again because you have the MISTI and your stamp is still perfectly positioned. Then I'm going to stamp the third layer using Pale Tomato ink by Hero Arts, and then I have my first flower. Then I'm going to stamp my second flower, and this time I'm going to use a smaller stamp from the Fresh Cut Peony stamp set. I'm starting out by using the soft yellow ink by Hero Arts, and I just thought that was a little bit too light, so I'm just going to stamp that twice so I end up with a darker yellow color. Then for the second layer of my flower, I am using the Duckling ink by Simon Says Stamp. So this is my medium tone of the yellow. And then I am going to use the darkest color, and I use some Sunshine ink from Simon Says Stamp for that. So you could use any color that you have in your stash of inks, and if you don't have like 3 tones of yellow or orange, then you can just stamp your images multiple times, so you will end up with a darker color. So if you have like a light yellow, you could stamp it once for your first layer, then twice for your medium color, and then you can stamp it 3 times if you want like a darker yellow. So you just kind of have to experiment with it, and I am sure that you will figure something out because everyone can do this. So I stamped those stamps from the flowers, and I created some masks for that. So I just stamped that onto some masking paper, I cut that out, and then I positioned that onto those stamps. So now I am going to stamp my third flower, and I wanted that flower to stand like behind the other two flowers. So for my first layer, I am using cotton candy ink from Cyrus's Stamp, and that color was just too light, so I stamped it about 5 times using that same color. Then I am going to use bubblegum ink for my medium tone of pink, and then last but not least, I am using dull pink as the darkest color of the peony. So just like that, and then I'm going to peel off those masks. Then I'm going to be doing some Copic coloring. So I stamped some flowers from the Woolly & Friends stamp set by Waffle Flower onto some Cyrus's Stamp Ultra Heavyweight cardstock using dull pink ink, and then I stamped the bird from the Jungle Fever stamp set from Create a Smile on there as well. So in a previous video from Julie Ebersole, I saw her doing some Copic coloring with a colored image, or like, you know, an image that you stamped with like a pink ink. And I wanted to do the same, so I'm just doing that right over here. So I used R22 first, and then I'm adding some extra shading using R24. Sorry about that, that was my iPhone. And then I'm going to use the yellow flower, or I'm going to color the yellow flower using Y13 and Y19. And I am going to use those same colors for the beak of that bird. So I'm using Y13, then I'm adding some shading using Y19, and then I'm blending that out using Y13 again. And then for the actual bird, I am using my two favorite pink Copic markers. I am using RV0000 as a base, and then I'm going to add a little bit of RV11 at the bottom and the top of that flower just to add some shading. And as you can see, I kind of flick my brush so it's not applied very heavily. And then I'm blending that out using the lightest color. So now I'm going to create an inlaid foiled sentiment for this card, and I am using the In a Word Happy die cut by Winnie & Walters. So I die cut that greeting, and I'm going to save those little pieces because I will be using that later in the video. So I'm just going to pop those out, and I'm going to set those aside. And then I am going to create my foiled die cut. So a couple of weeks ago, my friend Maaike introduced me to these papers that you can use to easily create foiled die cuts. So my friend Maaike also sells these papers, and these papers are actually made for her by people with special needs. So you can purchase these papers through her. You will get an A4 piece of paper, and one piece is €1, which is about $1.20. So I will have a link to her page in my video description and on my blog, so you can check that out. 50% of the profits from these papers goes to the facility where the people make these papers. So I think that this is just a really great thing of, you know, a really great charity. And I mean, I did internships at a similar place where people with special needs also worked, so of course I just had to share this in today's video. So I am going to use some pink foil by Heidi Swapp, and I am just going to put my foil on there, and I'm just going to foil this like I would foil any image. And then I am going to grab a piece of printer paper, and I folded that in two so I can have my little protection sheet. So I'm going to put my piece of foil between there, and then I'm going to run it through my laminating machine. You could also use a Heidi Swapp Mink machine, of course. So I foiled the paper, and as you can see, you will end up with a really big piece of foiled paper. So I'm going to die cut that happy greeting out of there, and I kind of damaged my foil by die cutting it, but no worries. I'm just going to put that between the paper again, and I'm just going to run that through my laminating machine once more, and then it will look perfectly. You could also die cut the greeting first and then foil it, but I just did it like this time. So then I'm going to assemble the card together, but first I'm going to stamp a birthday greeting from a Winnie & Walters stamp set called The Big, the Bold, and the Happy. And I'm going to stamp that birthday greeting on there using some Memento Tuxedo Black ink. And then I am going to put a lot of adhesive on the back of that paper, and then I'm also going to put some adhesive on a standard size note card. I'm just putting a lot of adhesive on there so I can easily pop in my die cut and then those little pieces that I saved. So first I'm going to put in the happy die cut. So there's a lot of adhesive on there, so it's just really easy to do. And then I'm going to use my tweezers just to pop in those little center pieces from that die cut. I'm also going to adhere those pieces that I colored earlier in the video. So I cut those out using my EK Success scissors, and then I am going to adhere those images on there using some foam squares, and then I used some glossy accents to adhere those flowers. And then last but not least, I'm going to adhere a variety of sequins from the tom, and I'm adhering those using my EK Success tweezers and some glossy accents. So that finishes up the card for this video. I will be back on Wednesday with my very first video as a guest designer for Create a Smile stamps. See you then. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.